and Battery. Hosted by
Mike, Laura, and Kelly.
Forget what you know. Forget what you know. Saul and Battery.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Saul and Battery, suffering Dylan knows-like technical difficulties tonight. So, I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter.
Hi, everybody. I'm at Official Pagan on everything, and that's really saying something when you're giving it Dylan level technical difficulties.
Yeah, so you may have heard, and it was probably hard to pick up because of, again, the seamless editing that I'm noted for. But we mentioned that this was hosted by Mike and Kelly and Laura. But you haven't heard Laura introduce herself yet. And that's because we're having some difficulty in getting Laura connected to the Hangout this evening. So we will...
Yay, Google.
Yes. We'll regroup. We hope if either Laura will pop in at some point in time. And if she does, folks, you're going to get to see her introduced to a Saul and Battery onboarding in flight. And so we'll just have to see how that goes. But we will work with her and see what we can do to kind of get things going. But as a reminder, gosh, we thought the name came from this show, our Squat Cobbler podcast, we thought was going to be 3 episodes, and we're well past that. And here we are on season 4 of A Saul and Battery. So kind of amazing.
It is, yeah. I mean, you and I have touched on this before, but we've done so many shows together now.
We have. This is actually one of my favorites, though, particularly because what we're going to start
with this episode.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
I was going to say, we're like 2 minutes into this. Are you trying to say, so far, this is probably the best one?
Yeah, you nailed your intro. It was seamless. So it was awesome. Yeah, and so super bummed that we haven't been able to connect with Laura, but we will either she'll pop in this week. If not, we're going to work our hardest to get her to join us next week.
Yeah, that would be really cool to have her on. And I've been trying really, really hard to talk Kelly out of his second backup, which is Alex Jones.
He's available. And of course, he only second to Kelly Toole's YouTube channel. Alex Jones gets a lot of attention from the powers that be as well.
I was thinking that all week, kind of watching that situation unfold. I was like, wow, he knows exactly how Kelly feels.
Alex Jones is my spirit animal. All right. As a reminder, since we've been gone for a while, we're going to talk about the episode, shocker, but we always like to start off. And boy, we talk a big game because we talked about last season that we were going to eventually compile all of these summaries and create one version of that and put it out there. That didn't happen. We're going to need to get back to the Kimometer, our kind of anticipation of whether Kim's going to make it out of this bad boy alive. Also offered to provide some data on that. Haven't done that either. So we'll see what we can do. But what we are consistent on is we provide you a show recap. If you haven't had a chance to watch it and you want to get a sense of it, we'll give that to you in this show. We started off at a minute and couldn't make it. Then Mike started making it all the time. And inspired by that, I got it within the 1 minute mark as well. And then Mike upped the game to now we are doing 30-second updates. And Mike is going to do the honors for this week. So give me a moment as I work on our fine audio visual setup here.
Not a problem. As you can tell watching this is only the highest end special effects in the studio.
That's right. We spare no expense. And we will go ahead and get started. So as you see my pudgy finger move forward to press the button, Mike, I'll kind of give you the start and go.
Undercover Saul wakes up paranoid. Chuck died. Howard writes the longest obituary since Darkest Day. Mike takes the no out of no show. Nacho needs none of those pills. Jimmy deflects guilt, not coffee. Done.
Wow. Well done. And done in less than 15 seconds. So that's...
Oh, yeah. I think it was 11.
Yeah, it was
Look at
between
the
11 and
thing.
12. We can check the tape. Excellent.
I'm saying 11. I was actually going to say before we started this that I could do it in 15 seconds, but I wasn't sure. Now, not only did I do it in 15 seconds, I actually put in a reference for all the, I'm sure, huge amount of death metal fans who are watching this. There's a little in-joke in there that only they'll get.
It's our base. So it's good to speak to the base, keep the base in line. All right, Better Call Saul, Season 4, premiere episode 1, entitled Smoke. One of the other things we like to do is favorite quotes, because Jimmy / Saul's always pretty awesome. Plus, Mike Ehrmantraut's another person that can kind of throw out some clever phrases. I was really struck by this episode that there was so much that was conveyed with no words. It was all the actors' reactions. That this is a tough one to pull an actual quote from versus a moment. So give you the flexibility as we go through this. If you have a favorite quote, Mike, certainly share that. If it's more, I really liked how Kim reacted here, or Jimmy, or whomever, feel free to share that as well. But I was really impressed that huge portions of this episode, there's not dialogue, but there's a whole lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, when I was watching that, unlike Kelly's extreme far right political views, this is a situation where he and I are in complete agreement. When I was watching this episode, what really struck me is, and we've talked about this so much, how great this cast is, what great actors they all are. And to me, this is such a great example of that, because there is a limited amount of dialogue in this. They're just conveying so much in every scene with very little dialogue.
Yeah, it was really impressive. Testament to the and it wasn't one actor. I mean, Bob Odenkirk nailed it. Ray Seahorn nailed it. Patrick Fabian nailed it. Jonathan Banks, Giancarlo Esposito. It's just it was amazing. So what we'll do is we're not going to do kind of a scene by scene breakdown, but we'll kind of step through the scenes and see if there's some kind of observations. So we open up, as we often do with Better Call Saul, in black and white, and with Gene back at the Cinnabon. And then when we last left Gene, he had collapsed, and we resume at that point in time with the spatula with the lovely Cinnabon frosting stuck to his face. He goes to the hospital, and and you see it both visually in Gene's reactions and just kind of what goes on. It's this Gene, Saul, Jimmy lives in constant fear of being found out, and whether it was the hospital receptionist who was mistyping his driver's license, or the eerily creepy taxi driver who stared at him with a Isotopes air freshener hanging off of his cab. Gene went through a lot of pressure on this first scene. Any thoughts on this one, Mike?
Well, so I liked the whole hospital interaction with the nurse at the desk. I don't know how many times you've been hospitalized, Kelly, but I feel like any time I've had to use those sort of medical facilities, there's always some sort of an issue. So I think it's a relatable thing, and it just ratchets up the tension and the paranoia in Gene in such a simple scene, but really in such a great way. And then once he gets into the cab, what I love that they did, because the cab driver is sort of creepy, and it gives you the feeling, well, is he being paranoid, or is this cab driver someone who's looking for him? What was your takeaway? Is it paranoia, or do you think there's more to the cab driver?
It's tough. It's really tough to tell. Um, I did a little bit of reading of the blogs and etc. afterwards, and apparently the actor who played the cab driver is a character actor of some note, someone that you probably wouldn't wheel in to just be one and done. So he may have some continuity here. We'll have to see. I think there is a lot of paranoia, and paranoia in the hospital was big, but I am not 100% sure that the cab driver's benign. I think there may ultimately be a bit of a problem for Gene with that.
Well, that's what I love, and again, what I love about the writing of this show, something we've talked about a great deal. They went such a long way to establish Gene's paranoia in the hospital and his exchange with the nurse at the front desk that you don't know for sure, is this just the paranoia spilling out, or is the cab driver up to something? And that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, and it was cool too with the, as usual for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, tremendous camera angles and cinematography going on. Incredibly reminiscent of Chuck's visit to the hospital, Gene's visit this time through there. So it's really, really cool. And then speaking of the tendency towards awesome visuals, we then cut into the next scene where we see little embers floating over the screen to a sleeping Jim and Kim. And Jimmy gets up, makes some breakfast, makes some coffee, eats the largest bowl of cereal I have ever seen. We're going to talk more about that in a second. And Howard's calling in, and they eventually get to the scene and kind of see what's kind of happens on there. And there's a lot of really cool interactions between non-spoken, but interactions between Jim and Kim on that. And Kim says, let's go home. So my number one question, Mike, is are you a cereal consumer?
Yes.
Are you a cereal consumer of the volume of Jimmy?
Maybe not. So, and I hate to talk about myself, this.
Yes.
But I am a musician, and early in my touring days, you get what is called a tour rider, where at stops, particularly on bigger shows, or if you're playing festivals, you get a rider of things that they are to provide for you. It's usually like, if you want water or soda, or if you want some sort of food before the show or something like that. If you're a big famous rock star, you can ask for some pretty ridiculous things. There's a band that I am friends with. I'm not going to mention their name here. They no longer tour or anything like that, but there's a band that I'm friends with. They used to put on their rider like underwear, socks, and undershirts so that they didn't have to do wash along, because you don't really get a lot of opportunities to do wash when you're on the road. Genius. I really, really wish I was that smart, because my rider was multiple boxes of Lucky Charms cereal. That's it. That's what my rider consisted of. Then as I continued to tour, I got the brilliant idea to expand upon that and add bags of mini marshmallows to the rider so that I could put more marshmallows in the Lucky Charms cereal. I pretty much at that point thought I had figured life out.
Yeah. So Lucky, that was kind of be my question, was cereal of choice. So that would be Lucky Charms for you?
For a long time it was, but basically anything with like that's sugary and has marshmallows in it.
Yeah. So I'm being a little bit more of a vintage individual, seasoned. The old Quisp versus Quake debate, neither exist, I believe, anymore at all. I was always Team Quisp in a significant way. High sugar content to that as well.
Very good.
And I thought Quake was a jerk. Quisp was much cooler.
And also, again, not to talk about myself, but obviously Wheaties is a great cereal as well.
True.
That is, for anyone who doesn't know, that is the officially licensed cereal of Evil Bong.
As it should be.
That is a real product. That's not even a joke.
Yeah. Not on every store shelf, but
No, but it's apparently very popular, because it was, when it initially came out, it was like a limited run thing to promote one of the 87 sequels that exist to that. and they're still making it a couple years later. So it's something that continues to sell well. Shameless product placement.
There you go.
You did that though. You walked us into that. I'm not
It's
responsible
my bad.
for that.
It's my bad.
Yeah, I am not responsible for that.
So returning to the show, we get back to now. We're back to our good buddy Mike, not Mike on the show.
Hey,
Hermit Trout, different Mike, slightly cooler Mike. Sorry,
sorry,
and definitely cooler Mike by the end of the episode. But he's back in his booth. It's his last day. He's got to turn in his windbreaker. He gets a little time with Kaylee. It's kind of cool on that. Gets a paycheck.
So is it just me? I'm just going to interject something really quickly there. The whole stepping on the hose thing, I feel like that played out for too long. Is that something that's going to come up again in like a darker way?
So I think there's always the possibility with Breaking Bad that that's what's going to happen.
Maybe I'm over analyzing it, but I just felt like they put almost too much emphasis on that little exchange where I'm like, is this going to be a thing?
Yeah. And these are tremendous writers and they're very efficient. And I do think, one of the intentionalities was, the soaker hose that Kaylee's using to water her garden is related to the soaker hose, in quotes, that Mike was having her assist making to create a spike strip to take one of Hector Salamanca's trucks out. So I think a lot of the energy was around a callback to that, but they did linger more than you would anticipate on it. So it will be interesting to see on that. So we had the kind of cool Mike Kaylee stuff. And then in this particular scene, we jump back over to Howard reading this, as Mike mentioned in his highly concise and targeted recap, ridiculously long obit for Chuck. And Jimmy's listened to it for a while and then kind of checks out, and Kim kind of wraps it up for him on that. Again, I had mentioned that multiple actors in this particular episode nail it on the unspoken but kind of conveyed stuff. And when Howard is talking about the growth of Hamlin McGill, the pride that you see just swell up in his how he carries himself as he's reading the obituary.
And at a point he's still going and not really reading from his notes anymore. It's like he's doing it from memory. It was just such an excellent performance.
Yep. Super cool. Any observations on either the Mike and Kaylee stuff or the Howard obit stuff?
Well, the Mike thing was, for me, the stepping on the hose. I was like, is this going to be a thing later? The Howard stuff, I love this scene. The acting from everybody involved was excellent. It did make me wonder, Kelly, maybe this is something we should do for the Saul and Battery watchers out there. We should write our own, or better yet, we should write each other's obituary.
Okay.
You write an obituary for me and I'll write an obituary for you.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be bonus content. We'll maybe after the end of the next episode we can read our obituary. So you just gave me a project, but yeah, I look forward to it.
Homework.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Feel free to go as long as Howard did.
Yeah. I'm going to process this. I have options. We'll see. Got a couple ways I could go. I like it. Yeah. So whether sometime during this season of Saul and Battery, you will get Mike's obituary for me and my obituary for Mike. So you got that to look for. And if we're lucky enough to get Laura involved, and I'm sure she'll be delighted to find out that there are obituaries involved with a Saul and Battery, but we'll see how it goes.
This is way more in depth than what she signed up for.
Yeah, I think so. And so we'll see how it all works out.
And for anybody who listened to the recap there, what I said about that particular scene was the longest obituary since Darkest Day. Darkest Day is the longest in time, like running time. studio album from the band Obituary. So
That's the kind of quality content
Super.
you get on a Saul and Battery.
super weird reference for the 3 people who got that, though. You're welcome.
Well played. I am not doing 15 seconds next week.
I'm just saying, I feel like I set a new precedent. You can
did.
do this in 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's not going to happen for me. I don't think.
And I got a Obituary reference in there.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
So next scene, Hector's down, and we've got incredibly cool and menacing Gus. He's calling the cartel. Nacho's trying to get rid of the bad pills, having some difficulty with that. Juan Bosa wants to visit with everybody and kind of explains the Salamanca territory is going to remain the Salamanca territory. And he's kind of putting Nacho and one of Tuco's boys in charge of that. And he kind of asks Gus what he thinks, and Gus is like, this is going to be a problem.
Do you think that we're going to see a war, as Gus suggested, that will ultimately, obviously, end with Gus coming out on top?
So Gus is the consummate professional, and I think he's just positioning us to say, hey, you know how you avoid that war? You put me in charge of everything. Give me the Salamanca territory. Let me run kind of everything. And to where then Tuco becomes a little bit more of a fringe player on stuff, which is what we see in Breaking Bad. So we'll see, but I think this is Gus being Gus and positioning himself. So I don't think there's going to be a war because Gus is going to eventually convince Juan Bosa that it's best for business for calm, cool, collected Gus to run the show. We come to this really kind of cool bridge scene. Great cinematography again, where again Nacho's working hard to get rid of those pills.
Yeah.
And there's eyes on
I feel
them.
like getting rid of those pills was far more difficult than swapping the pills in the first place.
Yeah, and it was not an easy task to do that. It involved some fine dexterity on Nacho's part to switch the pills. But yeah, he seemed to have a lot harder time getting rid of them, which to me is like, dude, go home. Put it in a pizza box. You're okay.
Yeah, that was my thing. Like, just go home with them.
But better scene to have him on a really cool lit bridge and throwing it out and then pulling back dramatically to see that Victor, one of Gus's fellows, is got eyes on him. So we know Gus knows what's up with Nacho.
And again, what an excellent performance, though. His nervousness is just palpable in those scenes. Great cast all around. Can't say that enough, how great the acting was.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because every single one of these folks just clobbers it. Yeah, and I'm not sure how many lines Michael Mando had Nacho in this episode.
Wasn't many.
But he moved the story along a lot. And it was through the nervousness and it was fantastic. So then I got thrown. I wasn't sure if I was watching a commercial or what was going on. But we come back and there's this dad and he's helping a kid with the bike. And I'm like, I don't remember this guy. I don't understand. He seems like he's kind of important to the story. And we got a kid helping with the bike and all these kinds of things. And he kind of opens his briefcase and he's poking around and something's missing. He's perplexed. And then the scene goes to the next level. We find out that our good friend Mike has lifted this gentleman's security badge and he had found in an earlier scene, he'd gotten the address for Madrigal, and now he's cruising in there. And I totally love this entire scene of Mike infiltrating Madrigal, getting a vest, driving a golf cart, signing a birthday card for Tina. It was all super awesome. Weighing in on Muhammad Ali versus Bruce Lee. And at the very, very tail end of it, starts reading the riot act to everybody around. You guys got crap security. And a little bit to a degree, this guy going like, who are you? And all of a sudden Mike's like, I'm a consultant, and why don't you give Lydia a call? So this was an incredibly fun, enjoyable process. And Better Call Saul is the story of Jimmy McGill becoming Saul Goodman, but we are blessed to have that tied with the development of Mike Ehrmantraut. And this was a Mike scene, and it was an awesome Mike scene.
Yeah, this scene was really great. I wasn't 100% sure where they were going to go with it at first. So it shows you start off with Mike bored at home, and he's looking at the pay stub for his no-show consultant job, and you're not quite sure where it's going to go. And when the scene with the guy and the kid started, you hit on exactly what I thought, that it was a commercial. I did not at first realize that was a part of the show. And then once it kept going, like more than a typical commercial length, I was like, all right, this is part of the show. When he got into the car, I thought something was going to happen to him. Like,
I totally expected that car to blow up.
Yeah,
I
the car was
really
blow
did.
up. There was somebody waiting in the car, something along those lines. Like something bad was about to happen to this guy in this car. And then when you just see that he's missing something, I'm like, where is all this going? And it went to such a great place, unexpected place, with Mike showing up and everything from him signing the birthday card to the Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee thing. So who do you think wins in a fight, Muhammad Ali or Bruce Lee?
So if Muhammad Ali's able to get close, it's Ali. The question is, can Bruce use his skills to not allow him to close the distance and kind of clock him with a roundhouse kick or something like that? So I tend to go with Bruce Lee, so long as he's able to address the issue before Ali gets close. You?
I think I agree with that. Close quarters fighting, Muhammad Ali, obviously on strength, has that. But if Bruce Lee with his speed can shut it down before then Bruce Lee would have it.
But neither one would survive George the Animal Steel of
True.
WWE fame.
Just facts.
It's facts. Or Baron von Richthofen from the fine Chicago wrestling scene. So, final scene, the funeral, Chuck's funeral. A lot of familiar faces. We get Ed Begley Jr., it's one of Jimmy's former bosses, showing up. Can't remember the guy's name. It's Snitzeldorf or something, but the guy that was involved with Casa Verde, he shows up. So we're seeing a lot of familiar faces. Funeral ends, again, tremendous acting by, you're just seeing Jimmy processing a lot of stuff here, and kind of head out, and there's poor Howard sitting on a curb looking a little sad. They come back to Jimmy and Kim's place, and he spills his guts about it's his fault because it wasn't, so first place where Jimmy could carry some blame was the hearing where Jimmy kind of outed Chuck that this is in your mind, it's not real. But no, he got over that. It was later when I said you got to go because of the insurance rates, which again Jimmy had his hands in to make that happen as well. And so you wonder at that point, and you see him starting to process it. Is he going to carry this weight hard? Nope. Howard says it's my fault. Jimmy goes, well, that's your cross to bear. Feeds the goldfish like he did at the very beginning of the show. Whistles like Walter White whistled after the whole Drew Sharp issue with Jesse. And he's kind of clearly just happily moved on in a way that is really kind of confusing to Howard and disturbing to Kim. Again, with no dialogue, just all through the reactions of the actors. And so, has the corner been turned, and the Jimmy McGill with the soul has now been replaced by send him to Belize, Saul Goodman. It's a pretty clear indication that we're started on that path.
To me, this is the biggest turn so far to Saul. I would not be surprised if that was the transformation moment there. Like that was the last of Jimmy and the full switch over into Saul, where he's like, well, it's your cross to bear, and feeds the fish and makes coffee. Like that was him, deflecting the last of the humanity of Jimmy.
Yeah, because that's Saul. Hey, so Badger's a problem. Why don't we just knife him in the prison and everything's good? and not a blink, which would never have been Jimmy, but this seems to be a really first clear indication of that. And it's going to be interesting to see how Kim processes that. And speaking of Kim, let us return to our Kimometer. As a reminder to Mike and me, I believe the way the scale works is 0. She is queen of her own island, living happily along, and 100% is she is 18 feet under. Where would you put?
You bury bodies really deep.
Yeah, well, it's necessary. You want to be solid on that kind of stuff.
So just remember, far right-wing commentator Kelly Toole buries bodies. Keep going.
Deep.
Deep
beyond detection. Scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being the worst possible scenario. Where do you put Kim's ongoing survival?
98.
Wow.
Because I think we've seen the final straw to Saul, however you want to. I think that was the transformation moment. The final last bit of Jimmy sort of bleeding away. It was throughout the episode, though, as he was processing all this and just sort of becoming numb to it. And now his way of moving on and pushing past this is fully embracing the Saul persona. And to me, the further he got, ultimately, the closer Jimmy got to Saul is really what's putting her in danger, because just to, spoiler alert to everybody, she's not in Breaking Bad. So the closer we get to that, I think that, she's not alive and well somewhere else. So I'm going to say 98% because I feel like we've turned that corner where Jimmy is Saul now.
Yeah, so some fun fan fiction on that is there's a camp of folks out there that when we go back to the mall where Gene is the manager of the Cinnabon, if you pan back from the Cinnabon, next to it is a Yankee candle or something like that, and Kim's the manager of that. And that would be pretty awesome. I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
So you got her at 98, which is very bleak outlook for Kim. So I'm gonna keep her right around actually about 65, because I think she's gonna be gone. But I just wonder if she's gonna make a run or two to say I'm gonna try and pull the old Jimmy back, and when it appears that that's not going to happen anymore, Kim being self-directed, knowing what she wants to do with herself, said, "You know what? I'm out of here. I'm going to Boston. I'm gonna do my thing there." And the reason we don't see her in Breaking Bad is she leaves the area to hopefully go on in a better way from there. But we will see on that.
That's entirely possible that the character is alive and well somewhere else. I just don't think that's where we're headed.
Either storyline will be interesting, very different depending on obviously the way it plays out. So there we go. Next time, we'll try again next Wednesday. We will begin some technical work with Laura to see what we can do to have her successfully join us as well. And I don't have anything else to add for this week unless you do.
No, I think that's it. And hopefully Laura will be joining us next week. And I think that she should do the 15-second recap.
I'll break that to her. So
I mean, she already has homework with the obituaries.
Yeah,
so.
she's got it. Yeah, this is going to be some interesting communications. Hey, you need to write an obituary and you need to be able to recap the episode in 15 seconds. Still interested? So we'll see. We'll see how it goes from there. But we'll work on it. And looking forward to talking more about this next week. So thanks for listening, everybody.